That night, Blackwood Manor looked like a massive stone tomb, buried deep within the storm. Rain lashed against the tall, Gothic windows like a whip, and every few seconds, lightning would flash, flooding the dining hall with a cold, ghostly light. In the center of this vast hall, around a long table made of black oak, sat 6 people. A heavy silence hung over the room, a silence even more deafening than the storm raging outside. There was no food on the table, just 6 crystal goblets, filled with dark red wine, glistening under the candlelight like 6 drops of blood. At the head of the table sat Lord Cavendish, a man with eyes that shone like shards of ice, and a smile with zero warmth. In his hand, he held a small, black bottle with no label. The other 5 guests, like statues made of pure fear and anxiety, were staring right at that little bottle. To his right, Lady Margaret, his wife, gripped the edge of the table with trembling hands. Opposite her sat Edward, the Lord's younger brother, constantly wiping sweat from his forehead. Further down sat the family's greedy solicitor, and next to him, the old servant, whom Lord Cavendish had forced to sit alongside his masters, just to complete the humiliation. And the 5th person, Dr. Arthur Moore, the family physician. Lord Cavendish held up the black bottle with a voice that echoed through the hall. He said, "Welcome. Tonight, we are going to play a little game. A game to decide fate." He uncorked the bottle and poured a few drops of the colorless liquid into one of the goblets. It dissolved instantly into the wine. This is an odorless, colorless poison. Within 60 seconds, it stops the heart. No pain, no noise. He smiled, baring his teeth. Only one of these goblets is poisoned. The other 5 are perfectly safe. Cavendish stood up, pulled a black silk blindfold from his pocket, and tied it over his eyes. Now, let fate take the wheel. Blindfolded, he shuffled the goblets around the table. The sound of crystal scraping against wood was the only thing to be heard in the hall. He spun them, mixed them, and finally placed one in front of each person, including one for himself. Then, he removed the blindfold. Tonight, fate chooses my heir, or perhaps my killer. Drink. No one moved a muscle. Everyone stared at their goblets in terror. Was this the one where death was hiding? Lord Cavendish reveled in the fear in their eyes. This was the best entertainment of his life. To humiliate them further, he picked up his own goblet. Are you afraid? Watch. Perhaps I am the unluckiest man tonight. He raised the glass to his lips, and in one motion, downed the entire drink. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Cavendish laughed, a loud, mocking laugh. You see, I am alive. Luck was on my side. He hadn't even finished his sentence when his face twisted. His eyes went wide. He clutched his throat. The laughter cut off, replaced by a terrible, gurgling sound. He stood up from his chair, stumbled, and crashed to the floor with a deafening thud. His body began to convulse. Thick, white foam bubbled from the corner of his lips. The room erupted. Edward shouted, He drank the poisoned goblet. Margaret screamed. This time, their fear was mixed with a sense of victory. The monster had killed himself. His twisted psychological game had backfired, but Dr. Moore didn't hesitate. With incredible speed, he pushed back his chair and knelt beside the Lord. He snapped open the medical bag he always carried with him. The doctor shouted, Stand back! He's choking! Cavendish thrashed on the floor, His eyes were wide open, staring blankly at the ceiling. The sound of his breathing had cut out completely. Dr. Moore checked his pulse and shouted to the group in horror. His heart is stopping. His airway is completely blocked. The throat muscles have locked up. Cold sweat beaded on Dr. Moore's forehead as he pulled a sterile, gleaming scalpel from his bag. There's only one way. I have to perform a tracheotomy. Right now. I need to open his throat so he can breathe, or his brain will be dead in 30 seconds. No one dared to object. Cavendish was still conscious. His eyes were fixed in terror on the doctor, and the shiny blade in his hand. His lips moved, as if he wanted to say something. His look was pleading, or perhaps something far beyond a plea. Dr. Moore placed the blade against the hollow of Cavendish's throat. He whispered, "Don't be afraid, Alistair. I'm going to open your airway now." And then, one quick, decisive motion. The scalpel sliced through skin and flesh. Blood sprayed out, splattering across the doctor's white coat. Lady Margaret turned away. Edward gagged. Dr. Moore plunged his hands into the wound, as if searching for the windpipe. The bleeding intensified. Cavendish's body gave a few violent, convulsive jerks. His eyes went wide, and then he lay completely still. The storm outside was the only sound left. Dr. Moore, his hands covered in blood, rocked back on his heels. He was panting. He hung his head. It was too late. The poison was too strong. He's gone. Lord Cavendish was dead. The game of Russian Roulette had claimed its first victim. An hour later, the spinning blue lights of the police cars painted the darkness outside the manor. Chief Inspector Holloway entered the hall, a man in a wet trench coat, with a sharp gaze and the strong smell of stale tobacco. He was a man who never believed in accidents. The body was still on the floor, under a white sheet. The 5 other goblets sat untouched on the table. Holloway walked straight over to Dr. Moore, who was scrubbing bloodstains from his hands. "Dr. Moore, I've read the report. That was a brave effort to save your friend's life," Dr. Moore replied, his voice hoarse and filled with grief. "It was my duty, Inspector. But that bloody poison, it had completely closed off his throat. There was nothing I could do." Holloway nodded and walked over to the body. He pulled back the sheet, his gaze locked onto Cavendish's face. Then he looked at the deep gash in the throat, and then back to the face. The inspector frowned. He muttered under his breath. "Strange," the officer beside him asked. "What is it, sir?" Holloway said. "Asphyxiation. When someone chokes, the body fights for air. The face turns purple. The lips turn blue. But this man," Holloway pointed to the Lord's pale face, "this man's face is as white as chalk. He didn't die from a lack of oxygen. He died from a lack of blood." Holloway pulled on a pair of latex gloves and knelt beside the corpse. "Doctor, you said foam was coming from his mouth." Dr. Moore stepped forward. "Yes, thick, white foam. A clear sign of poisoning." Holloway took out his metal forceps. "Then we must see what he ate." He forced open Cavendish's locked jaw. He shined the light of his small torch inside. Dried saliva and blood made it hard to see. But Holloway knew exactly what he was looking for. In the corner of the cheek, hidden behind the molars, a small, white spot was visible with surgical precision. Holloway moved the forceps forward and pulled the small fragment out, a piece of a white tablet, half dissolved, but the other half was still solid. Holloway held it up for all to see. Then he smelled it. It smelled of oranges. A bitter smile sat on the inspector's lips. He stood up and turned to Dr. Moore. His look had changed now. It was no longer the look of a sympathizer. It was the look of a hunter. Dr. Moore, you are a skilled physician. How did you not diagnose that your patient was not suffocating? Dr. Moore stammered. The signs were obvious. Foam at the mouth, the gurgling sound. Holloway cut him off, holding up the tablet. This foam wasn't from sickness. This is a vitamin C effervescent tablet, the kind you sell in any chemist's. Lord Cavendish was not poisoned. Absolute silence ruled the hall. Holloway continued, his voice quiet, but sharp as a blade. Lord Cavendish put on a show tonight, the game of Russian Roulette. It was all a lie. There was no poison. He wanted to pretend he drank the poisoned goblet by mistake. He wanted to fake his death, to see who would be happy. He ate this tablet to make the foam look real. The inspector took a step toward the doctor. He was acting. His airway was clear. He was breathing. And you knew this. The color drained from Dr. Moore's face. That is a lie. I just wanted to open the airway. No, Holloway shouted. You didn't open the airway. I saw the body. Your incision was precise, but not to save him. You sliced the windpipe, but you accidentally severed the carotid artery. And his vocal cords. The inspector pointed to the body. Do you know why he didn't scream? Why? When you put the blade to his throat, he didn't shout, "This is just a game." Because you cut his vocal cords with your very first move. You silenced his voice. Holloway was now standing right in front of the doctor. Lord Cavendish was lying on that floor, wide awake. He was looking at you, the only friend he trusted. He was waiting for you to confirm his fake death, so he could get up and laugh. But you used his game against him. You butchered a man who was breathing, right in front of 5 witnesses. And you called it surgery. Dr. Moore's knees went weak. He leaned against the table. All his dignity, all his composure, crumbled. His gaze turned to Lady Margaret, the doctor said, with a trembling voice. He was a devil. Everyone looked at the doctor in shock. Dr. Moore continued, his voice rising. You don't know what he had planned. He didn't just want to leave you destitute. He wanted to destroy you. Last night he told me. He said he was going to have Margaret committed to an asylum. He said he would make Edward rot in prison. The doctor laughed, a nervous, terrifying laugh. He came to me with that wicked smile. He said, "Let's put on a show, Moore. I die. You confirm it. And then I come back to life and watch the terror in their eyes." Tears flowed down the doctor's cheeks. I loved Margaret. I couldn't let that monster ruin her life. When I saw him lying there, acting, I told myself this was the best chance. He had prepared his own death scene. I just made sure he didn't get up again. Dr. Moore raised his hands, staring at the dried bloodstains on them. He looked into my eyes until the very last moment. He realized the game was over. I saw that fear, and it was worth it. Holloway nodded slowly. He understood the doctor's justice, but the law was something else entirely. Dr. Arthur Moore, you are under arrest for murder. Police officers stepped forward and snapped cold. Metal handcuffs around the doctor's wrists. Holloway looked at the 5 untouched goblets on the table. For the last time, 5 goblets, and not a drop of poison in any of them. The game of Russian Roulette had been a lie from the start. He walked toward the exit. Outside, the storm had finally calmed, as if the sky itself knew that the final act of the drama at Blackwood Manor had been written in blood.
It's all about humanity.